A trucking company drove on Colorado's roads for 2 years without insurance. We only learned that after the crash on I-25 last year that killed 5 people. Our Mark Salinger looks at the problem with policing some of the biggest vehicles on the road.
The crash was awful. A truck plows into a family stopped in traffic at 75 miles an hour. 5 people dead. Yet 28 months before this scene on I-25 in Weld County, a new lawsuit alleges the dangers were already clear. Lawyers say the Caminante's truck didn't have insurance on June 13, 2022. We now know it may not have been insured for nearly 2.5 years before this crash.
28 months prior to the crash, this motor carrier loses its insurance coverage because it's been in so many wrecks, so many violations.
Grant Lawson represents some of the surviving family members. A new lawsuit filed this week in federal court alleges that State Farm pulled its insurance policy for Caminantes in 2020, citing severe safety violations and unsafe history. State Farm was required to tell the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration about the company's lack of coverage. The lawsuit says that never happened, and the federal agency allowed Caminantes to stay on the road for years without insurance.
We have an organization that's responsible for policing hundreds of thousands of trucking companies. They are understaffed. They are overwhelmed. They do not have enough resources.
And yet it gets worse. Text messages obtained by 9 News show the trucking company tried to buy insurance for the truck around an hour after the crash.
This happened here. How many other trucking companies out there are getting away with the same thing?
Lawson says there's a long line of negligence that led to this scene on I-25. The trucking company should have had insurance. The Postal Service should have checked before they hired Caminantes to carry mail. State Farm should have told the federal government they canceled the insurance plan. And the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration should have stopped the truck from being on the road. And yet, according to this lawsuit, none of that ever happened. The truck also was operating with faulty brakes, and the truck driver didn't have a proper commercial driver's license. Federal documents show neither the truck nor the driver should have been on the road at the time of the crash. We asked State Farm today why they didn't tell the government that they canceled the insurance plan 2 years before the crash. Kyle, they declined to comment.
I feel like all of this has only kind of been unraveled as you started to ask questions about it. At the end of the day, what kind of punishment did the company face?
So the federal government fined the company about $20,000. That's it, drop in the bucket. And the United States Postal Service kept their contract with Caminantes Trucking until we started asking so many questions that several months after the crash, they said, okay, fine, we'll stop.
Kept the contract until the public knew
exactly
that they had kept the contract. Mark Salinger, thank you. A federal judge says a Christian school in Buena Vista can stay in Colorado's universal pre-K program while that school sues the state over non-discrimination requirements. Darren Patterson Christian Academy wants an exemption so that it can discriminate based on religion, sexual orientation, and gender identity. The lawsuit says the state's ban on that kind of discrimination violates the school's religious rights to hire those who share their faith, have gender-based dress codes and bathroom rules. They also say that being forced to refer to students by a pronoun other than their biological sex would violate their free speech rights. The state failed in an attempt to have the lawsuit dismissed, arguing they haven't taken any enforcement action against the school because no one's filed a complaint. The judge just ruled that the school stands a chance of winning this at trial, in part because of the recent Supreme Court ruling that carved out free speech exemptions in Colorado's anti-discrimination laws. The judge is allowing the case to move forward, says the state can't withhold funding from the Christian school until this case is resolved. Over the weekend, a federal judge also blocked Colorado's first-in-the-nation law banning so-called abortion reversals. A Catholic health clinic in Inglewood sued to stop the law back in April, claimed that the ban violated its First Amendment rights. The clinic said that it provides these reversal treatments to women by giving them large doses of hormones intended to undo medication abortions. The American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists says abortion reversals are not backed by scientific evidence. And Colorado's medical boards are mixed on whether the procedure is a valid medical practice. The judge's decision means the state can't enforce the ban while courts consider the clinic's lawsuit. These laws passed by Colorado's Democrats are just taking L's left and right in the courts these days. Back in August, a judge sided with the No Compromises gun advocacy group Rocky Mountain Gun Owners as they sought to temporarily block a new state law on firearms purchases, raising the minimum age to buy to 21. Democrats are backing off a false claim used by Governor Polis and others to promote Prop HH after we fact-check that falsehood here on Next. Ads, mailers, and the Yes on HH website made the false claim that Prop HH is the only way to prevent coming property tax increase. It is not. Republicans have suggested a special legislative session to find property tax relief without raiding Tabor refunds, as Prop HH does. The Yes on HH website was just changed to alter the governor's quote to now say that Prop HH is the quote-unquote best way to prevent devastating tax increases. Should note that that quote then goes on to make a second false claim that we also fact-checked, this idea that Prop HH preserves Tabor refunds. It does not. It does the opposite. It reduces them, potentially down to zero in some future years. I imagine all this will come up at tonight's debate, 7 p.m., streaming on 9 News Plus on 9news.com. It is a debate on Prop HH and how it will impact our state. Marshall Zellinger will moderate. Governor Polis and economist Art Laffer will debate against conservative strategist Michael Fields and GOP State Rep Rose Puglisi. If you missed the debate, you can find it later on 9news.com or the 9 News YouTube channel. So given that it is the biggest issue on this year's ballot, and it is your money at stake, politics guy Marshall Zellinger is going to take a few minutes to explain what happens if Prop HH passes or fails.
A yes vote on Proposition HH does so many things, but let's be clear what it does not do. It does not lower your property tax bill to a dollar amount less than what you paid this past year. A yes vote creates a discount on your property tax increase for 10 years. Next year, your property tax bill will still go up, just not as much if Prop HH passes. The higher the value of your property, the more money you will save. A yes vote allows seniors to take the senior property tax exemption with them to new homes. Those who are 65 and older and have lived in their home for 10 or more years get a portion of their home's assessed value tax-free, and Prop HH makes the discount portable to new homes. A yes vote allows the state to keep and spend more each year than is currently allowed. That money would normally be refunded back to you as a Tabor refund. With the exception of next year, a yes vote reduces your future Tabor refunds and could eliminate them in some years depending on future unknown economic factors. More on what a yes vote means for next year's Tabor refund in a moment. The extra money that a yes vote allows the state to keep and spend would go to three areas. Some would go to local governments, since they would be receiving fewer property tax dollars than if HH failed. Up to $20 million each year would go to a rental assistance fund. And the bulk of the money would go to school districts to pay them back entirely for the lost property tax revenue that would have existed if Prop HH failed. And money beyond that would go to the state education fund. A yes vote puts a limit on how much some local governments can collect in property tax revenue each year, unless those local governments hold a public meeting and vote to keep more than would be allowed. Now let's go back to the Tabor refunds part. Only if you vote yes will Tabor refunds next year be equal, no matter your income level. That means if you make up to $99,000, you will get a larger Tabor refund. If you make more than $99,000, your Tabor refund will be smaller. In future years, everyone's Tabor refund would be reduced overall, with higher income earners seeing more dollars taken away. A no vote makes no changes to the current property tax structure. A no vote does not allow the state to keep and spend more money than is currently allowed. A no vote would distribute next year's Tabor refund based on your income level. Fewer dollars for low-income earners, much more Tabor refund dollars for high-income earners.
A no vote also does one more thing. It causes lawmakers to come up with something else. Because if you believe the legislature will just say, well, voters said no, I guess they don't want property tax relief after all, I'm going to say that's silly. But as of now, Kyle, I've heard of no alternative.
That is one thing that I can't wait to hear you talk about with the governor and others tonight, which is what happens if this thing fails. So as we look at whether this is going to pass, statewide tax measures are like the one place that Republicans and conservatives have been able to win in Colorado in like the last 5 years. But you wouldn't know that Prop HH is a tax increase by looking at it on the ballot.
No, but the reason it's on the ballot is because it asks for the state to be able to keep more money, and it depends on your definition of tax increase. If you're getting less back on your tax return, is that a tax increase? But that's the only part that really makes this on the ballot. All those other parts could be done by the legislature without going to you for permission. That's kind of how you know.
7 o'clock, Marshall, the governor, the Republicans, getting after it on Prop HH. Thank you, sir. A $1,000 check can make a world of difference after somebody loses a job or the death of a spouse or a difficult health diagnosis. And you just cut a little stack of those checks with the $15,000 that you raised for a nonprofit called A Woman's Work. They help women in the St. Vrain Valley after one of those life setbacks. Through 175 straight weeks of microgiving, your Word of Thanks microgiving campaigns have raised $11.4 million for nonprofits across our state. Often this gets started when you have a great idea of some nonprofit that we never heard of. We research them, we check out their financials, make sure they're stable and strong, and then we ask other people to help. So if you have an idea, email it to me next at 9news.com.
It really was one of the first steps in really bringing about some major changes in the community.
50 years ago tonight, Denver's queer community took on the city's anti-gay laws. Denver's mayor is preparing to spend a boatload of money on homelessness. The people who work on this issue say the city isn't doing enough to prevent homelessness. And pickleball courts being taken out. Yep, the war on pickleball continues. Next. Before Denver Mayor Mike Johnson's budget is approved, he and City Council will try to bridge a $70 million divide. Council and community advocates are demanding more money from the mayor for a long list of programs, with funding to prevent evictions at the top of that list. The mayor's latest budget proposal earmarks $15 million for the city's rental assistance program. It is the most money Denver has budgeted for rental assistance in recent years, but still a steep drop-off from last year when federal dollars came in and funded the program. City Council and a bunch of anti-poverty groups and tenants' rights organizations want the city to set aside $30 million for the program and pull from cash reserves if needed. Advocates say that what we're talking about now is not enough to meet demand, as local evictions near an all-time high.
We are in a housing crisis of unprecedented scale. And so to meet a crisis of that level demands resources and a solution at that same level. $30 million is the most inexpensive, the fastest way to get there. And otherwise, it's a real pay now or pay more later. And we firmly believe that paying now keeps people off the street, keeps people in their homes, and will ultimately save the city money.
City Council is taking public comment on the budget tonight and can pass their request over the mayor's opposition if they have a supermajority next month. All right, cue up that Fox News style scary sounding graphic, because we have an update tonight on the war on pickleball. So it is the end of the outdoor pickleball courts at Eisenhower Park. Denver Parks and Rec says even after they tried to work with PBAG, that is the Pickleball Advisory Group, PBAG, even after working with them, it's still just too loud. They didn't come up with another solution, so now players will have to go about 25 minutes drive north of there to the pop-up pickleball courts that have been put in at MLK Park. Or they can play pickleball inside at the Eisenhower Rec Center, which has increased its hours. Those outdoor courts will close November 6th. I don't know, Danielle Grant. Maybe people are going to be playing pickleball outside on November 6th, and it's going to be 80 degrees still. What in the world?
I know. It's crazy. Have you ever played pickleball?
I played it once with Steve Stager, who loves it. And I was a tennis player in high school and college. So I basically stood around swinging and missing all the time because I thought that I had another foot of racket or paddle ahead of me. Yeah.
Okay, well, maybe I'll take it up. I don't know. I've never played before, but yes, to your point, we have some more 70s on the horizon. Today, we did not break the record, 87. That still is going to go down in the books. Last set back in 1973, but we did touch 81. I hope you had a chance, even if it was just for 5 minutes, to get outside and soak in some of that sunshine. I promise cooler temperatures are just around the corner. Upper 70s in northern Colorado. It was hot off to the eastern plains, 70s in Steamboat over to Meeker, and about 78 in Grand Junction. It has been so incredibly dry the month of October, too. We're now in the running for the second driest October we have ever seen. Again, all of that changes as we look ahead toward the weekend. This is the first of several storms that will push across the state. That cold front, that'll slide in as we look ahead toward tomorrow afternoon. Let me time it out for you, because you're going to start to see some of that moisture rolling in as early as 8 o'clock. That's going to be toward the San Juans early tomorrow morning. For us here in Denver, we'll wait on the cloud cover until the afternoon, and then by about 5, 6 o'clock, few showers firing up across the Palmer Divide. I don't anticipate us seeing much here in the Denver area, but temperatures will be cooler than today. Still quite comfortable in the 70s for us, 80s in Springfield with 50s and 60s up in the mountains. We stay mild on Wednesday before cooler weather rolls in, and right now it looks like we could see our first snowfall of the season on Sunday.
It all really goes back to that first event that happened 50 years ago.
Denver's fight for gay rights marks a half-century milestone tonight. The 1969 Stonewall riots in New York ignited a gay rights movement around the world. Here in Denver, we had our own Stonewall moment in City Council chambers 50 years ago tonight.
50 years ago is a very important event in Denver's LGBTQ history. I'm Rex Fuller, and I'm the CEO at the Center on Colfax.
We have 36 speakers signed up.
There was a meeting of the City Council where about 350 protesters stayed and kind of took over the council meeting, demanding changes in the laws in Denver. Denver police frequently harassed and stopped gay men, especially at gay bars in Denver. There were a lot of arrests, and the protest was asking for changes in laws. If you were seen holding hands, you would be arrested. If you kissed in public, you would be arrested. At that time, I believe it was still illegal in the state of Colorado to have a same-sex relationship at all.
Investigate tactics and policies.
It was a very oppressive atmosphere 50 years ago. Most gay men were deeply closeted.
What really strikes you when you're watching this is you're seeing history be made. My name is Aaron Marcus. I am the Gill Foundation Associate Curator of LGBTQ History here at History Colorado. What I found here at History Colorado in our archives were 4 film reels. What I hope people realize when they see this, they are seeing Colorado's Stonewall moment. This was a huge moment for this community, and what they accomplished led to what is now the Center on Colfax.
There are a lot of challenges that we continue to face as a community, but so much progress has been made in the last 50 years. And so I think it's a positive sign that people really can speak up and make change.
A year after that city council revolt, the Gay Coalition of Denver won the lawsuit. Their victory was among the first legal victories of its kind in the U.S. The Center and History Colorado put together a documentary on that event. It's playing tonight at the C Film Center. Going to stroll over and check out preparations for tonight's Prop HH debate. Marissa has your feedback. We'll do that as well next. Proposition HH is the single biggest issue on the ballot that you have in hand now, so it deserves a debate. We're going to have it tonight on 9 News. Join us on 9 News Plus and 9news.com at the top of the hour, 7 o'clock, for a live debate. Marshall Zellinger will moderate. Governor Polis will be here, along with economist Art Laffer. They are going to argue in favor of Prop HH, against conservative strategist Michael Fields and GOP State Rep Rose Puglisi. If you miss it, you can watch it later on 9news.com or on the 9 News YouTube channel. We're putting this on tonight in conjunction with our partners at the Denver Gazette. Holy cow, a lot of feedback tonight about Prop HH. Mary says, you guys done a great job trying to clear up the proposition. I don't understand why they had to make it so complicated. That's something that we'll talk about here tonight. She continues, it feels as if they didn't want people to really understand what was happening and therefore dependent on whichever advertisements they believe. We'll be getting into some misleading claims that have been made in those ads, like the false claim that the governor and other Democrats were making that this is the only way to avoid property tax increases. To that point, Mike writes in with a nice note, says, thank you, Kyle. You're the best at calling politicians out on both sides of their aisle for their... I'm unclear about whether I can say that word on TV, but I think you know what Mike means. Debate, 7 o'clock tonight. My man Marshall in charge. See you then.